Let's jump into a wild ride where humanity is on the brink, and heroes like Jahui Jin, the legendary star of the sword, are desperately trying to save our world. She just watched Kang Chien, the only hero who could stop the twisted game of these alien gods, die right in front of her. Desperate, she begs for a second chance, and the gods actually grant her wish, throwing her 10 years into the past. Armed with future knowledge, she sets out to locate Cheyenne and shield him at all costs. But when the deadly league kicks off, our main character, who just wanted a quiet life to support his little brother, has to fight simply to survive the brutal first round. But when the chaos hits, his little brother Juno suddenly vanishes, driving Kang to tear through absolutely anyone in his way to find him. Luckily, he has a badass guardian angel ready to pave the way. Now, our story actually begins with a sudden, massive disaster that marks the terrifying launch of this cosmic league. As this ruthless game went on, humanity was slowly wiped out. Yet, right at the very end, a few brave survivors stood on the verge of clearing the final round to save everyone. Among them is a battered hero, throwing one last desperate strike with everything he has left. But the smug administrator, Jay, just laughs, mocking him for coming so close yet failing. Completely spent, our protagonist collapses to the floor. Nearby, Jian screams at Cheyenne to stand up, while the administrator casually mentions that he has never seen humans make it to the final round before. But since victory is impossible, he tells them to be glad they at least put on a show for the entire universe. Before executing them, he offers to grant the girl a single wish as a reward for the great entertainment. Bleeding and broken, Jin begs for just one more chance. The smug administrator claims that is impossible unless the higher gods demand it. With a cold farewell, he leaves Jin, the star of the sword, all alone to face the grim end of the 8th round. But next thing we know, the young woman wakes up gasping in her own bed, looking around her old apartment in total shock. Suddenly, her phone lights up with incoming texts from her old, long-lost comrades. Staring at the screen, she realizes she has regressed 10 years into the past, and her dead friends are still alive. She wonders how this is even possible when the administrator said a do-over was out of the question. Through the panic, a brilliant realization hits her: if she's back, then Cheyenne must be alive too. She scrambles to get ready, knowing she has to find him before the league begins in just a few hours. Now, pay attention here, because this cosmic league is actually a team battle, and Cheyenne is the key. In her past life, he was known as the Supreme Commander who almost won the whole thing. Resolved to team up with him right from the start, our star of the sword sprints out to rewrite history. Meanwhile, over in the bustling city of Anyang, a couple of construction workers are staring in awe at the sheer work ethic of their youngest coworker. It is Cheyenne, putting his absolute all into hauling heavy materials. Wiping his brow as he finishes up, he tells himself the grueling labor is not so bad. A veteran worker warns him he will burn out at this rate, asking if he has abandoned his studies. Cheyenne shrugs, saying a college degree cannot buy food. When pressed on why he works non-stop without taking a single day off, he simply replies that he needs to provide a decent life for his younger brother. The kind supervisor hands him his cash envelope, warmly advising the boy to head home early and celebrate his little brother's 13th birthday. Cheyenne heads straight to the local shopping mall and asks an employee for a gift suitable for a 13-year-old. She recommends a trendy jacket, pointing out that middle schoolers love wearing them over their school uniforms. He hesitates, knowing that buying this means struggling to pay the electric bill and buy groceries next month. But after a sweet phone call from Juno asking for birthday fried chicken, Cheyenne decides to buy both the food and the jacket. After all, his brother only turns 13 once. Clutching the bag, Cheyenne smiles, realizing this is the first time he has ever spent over 100,000 won on clothes, thrilled to finally spoil his brother. But as he walks toward the elevators, they suddenly shut down, leaving him wondering what is wrong. Another shopper tries to escape through the emergency exit stairs but runs back in terror. Intrigued, Cheyenne goes to investigate some strange smoke, only for a powerful force to violently shove him back and slam the door shut. Suddenly, a chilling broadcast blares over the speakers, declaring the entire mall is shut down. Cheyenne checks his phone only to find there is absolutely no signal, realizing this disaster is affecting the whole city. As mass panic erupts, a glowing blue holographic screen manifests before the terrified crowd. The message coldly announces that everyone inside is now linked to Area 2, and that a cosmic summit has decreed Earth's population must be drastically reduced. In short, they are now targets of a forced cosmic extermination, and because this law applies to all life forms, the human species has absolutely no right to refuse. Cheyenne struggles to comprehend what this crazy system means by being qualified for the League. Suddenly, a massive, grotesque creature with a glowing red eye appears, sending the crowd into an absolute frenzy of pure, unadulterated terror. While everyone else loses their minds, Cheyenne stays completely calm. Let's pause for a second, because his only concern is his little brother sitting home alone. Blocking out the screaming crowd, he quickly weighs his options, determined to break out of this mall and make it back to Juneau. Down in the dark parking garage, a group of fleeing civilians finds themselves completely cornered by hideous, green-skinned monsters with glowing eyes. The system's goal is brutal: eliminate three-quarters of the human race. As the beasts begin their bloody slaughter, Jin suddenly leaps into action, recalling the primary survival rule she learned from Cheyenne: never stop moving if you want to live. With deadly grace, she effortlessly carves through the beasts, having spent hours battling her way up the building just to find the future monarch. She is doing all of this because she knows he is the world's only hope. As Cheyenne reaches another sealed exit, surrounded by weeping crowds, he realizes escaping the physical building is impossible. Right then, a strange, pink-haired girl wearing a blindfold floats down into the center of the room. Slipping through the panicked crowd completely unnoticed, she loudly claps her hands, demanding everyone's attention to speed up the process. She introduces herself as Administrator CA, explaining that humanity has been classified as an invasive species slated for eradication. With a fake pout, she admits that while it is sad, she is obligated to carry out the policy. One brave woman steps forward, pleading for their lives and asking why they must suffer. But the creature simply smiles, stating that even exterminations must follow proper protocol. She explains they must vote. Those who choose X can opt out of the league completely. Pointing to a massive holographic timer, she gives them exactly 5 minutes. Naturally, the crowd rushes toward the X option, but Cheyenne stands alone, calmly stepping into the O circle. The crowd stares in absolute disbelief, not realizing that his tactical mind has already figured out this is the only path to survival. As bystanders scream at him to switch sides, a sudden telepathic voice echoes inside Cheyenne's mind. It is Ka, telling him his choice is highly intriguing. She offers him a secret deal: if he can convince others to join him in the O circle, he will receive an amazing bonus reward, with 0 penalty if he fails. Weighing his options, Cheyenne yells out to the crowd that choosing X is a death sentence. Some people just sneer and mock him, asking if he thinks he is some big movie hero. But he fires back, reminding them of the system's rules. There is no option to refuse participation. If this lethal game is real, choosing to opt out is literal suicide, so caution is their only shield. With seconds left, they panic and run to the O circle, and trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. Alright, let's dive into this brutal game where our main character is desperately praying the system admin was lying. But with a chilling smile, Ka announces time is up, and in a split second, the remaining 2 players on the other side literally explode. In absolute shock, Cheyenne realizes this woman wasn't bluffing. She praises his survival skills and rewards him with a handgun loaded with 10 bullets. But there is a catch: if he doesn't buy extra ammo from her, he will never find bullets again. He asks if other gear is sold separately, but she cryptically tells him he'll find out soon enough. Suddenly, a horrifying noise echoes through the hall. A survivor stumbles down the stairs, begging for help, only to get brutally slaughtered by a monster. The panicked crowd watches in terror, wondering what these creatures are. Cheyenne realizes the real game has finally begun. Laughing, the admin tells everyone to face reality before vanishing into thin air. The crowd scatters in pure panic, but the beasts easily hunt them down. Hiding in the shadows, Cheyenne wonders how he can survive this massacre. But remembering his little brother, he finds his resolve. Right then, a monster lunges from the dark, slashing at him instantly. Our hero manages to block the blow, but the nimble creature slices him with a small dagger. Bleeding and cornered, he realizes he has to run. But looking back, he sees the creature squirming on the ground. He spots the dropped dagger. Hesitating, he desperately wonders if there is a way to survive without taking a life. Realizing he has no choice, he grabs the blade and charges forward. To ensure he survives for his little brother, he plunges the dagger deep into the goblin's back, spraying dark blood all over the place. Letting go of the weapon, his hands shake from the adrenaline. But there is no time to panic. He needs to find an exit right now. As the chaos intensifies, terrified people scramble up anything they can to escape. But suddenly, an unexpected attack begins striking down the monsters. Now pay attention, because here is where our boy notices something. Seeing metal coat hangers, Cheyenne jumps into action. He saves a screaming survivor and explains his discovery: once these beasts fall down, they struggle to get back up, meaning they aren't invincible. Yelling at the top of his lungs, he orders everyone to dodge. 2 guys quickly step aside, causing the pursuing goblins to crash hard onto the floor. Cheyenne shouts that they can survive if they work together. All they have to do is sharp turn while running, wait for the monsters to trip, and strike them down with whatever they have. Inspired, the survivors grab improvised weapons from the floor. One stunned bystander stares at Cheyenne, wondering who this kid really is. After clearing the area, a rugged man approaches, praising Cheyenne's quick thinking. He introduces himself as Guangsu, a former Special Forces soldier. Cheyenne instantly realizes that teaming up with this veteran would be highly beneficial. But keeping his cards close, Cheyenne plays it cool. He claims he did nothing special, merely observing the monster's patterns and using them to survive. The soldier is amazed that Cheyenne kept his cool and took charge amid such absolute chaos. When asked about their next move, our hero scans the room and says they must act fast. They need to build a barricade to bottle up the beasts. This defense will protect the survivors inside, allowing them to spear the monsters from above using metal rods. He calmly reminds the veteran that this entire nightmare is merely the tutorial stage. Guangsu agrees, highly impressed by the kid's tactical mind. Seeing their plan, other survivors quickly pitch in to help build the barrier. Cheyenne accepts their help, assigning tasks and taking full command of the defense. But suddenly, a strange sound from the escalator puts everyone on high alert. We see terrified goblins running away from a girl named Ji-hyun. Cheyenne tells his team to hold their fire. After effortlessly slaughtering the beasts, she approaches, leaving Cheyenne thinking she's scarier than the monsters. Though she looks relieved to find him, the crowd murmurs in awe at how powerful she is. The swordswoman warns Cheyenne not to drop his guard. Stabbing a fallen goblin, she explains that these monsters possess incredible regeneration, healing minor wounds in minutes. Cheyenne notes that she seems to know way too much about them. Lighting up a cigarette, she casually reveals she's been through this hell before. Guangsu asks about the other floors, and she admits this lobby has the only survivors left. From the second basement to the 7th floor, it's nothing but dead bodies. Cheyenne is stunned, wondering how she cleared all those levels entirely alone with just one sword. Okay, I know what you're thinking. A team up, right? But out of nowhere, Chihaya mentions she couldn't find his brother, Juno. Hearing his brother's name, Cheyenne draws his gun and points it directly at her face. He demands to know how she even knows about his brother. Refusing to answer in public, she suggests they talk privately, leading them to a restroom with his gun still aimed at her. She calmly explains that she is a regressor, currently playing this deadly survival game for the second time. She claims that in her past life, they met 5 years into the survival league. They reached the very final stage together, alongside other players fighting desperately for money, freedom, or their respective faction kings. But when that timeline collapsed, she decided to seek out the future monarch of the strongest faction in advance. Cheyenne coldly apologizes, saying he has absolutely zero interest in her plans. He warns her never to mention his brother again, but she quickly fires back, asking if he wants to keep the boy alive. She points out that round 1 has already kicked off elsewhere, and escaping this mall requires completing the tutorial first. Even if he escapes, surviving the wilderness alone with a young child is practically impossible. Since she has future knowledge, she offers to guide him. Weighing his options, Cheyenne decides to ally with her until his brother, Juno, is safe. But first, he tests her by demanding to know who he wants to kill most in this world. Without flinching, Ji-hyun answers that he wants to murder his own aunt. Since he has never shared that dark secret with anyone, Cheyenne finally believes her claims, though he warns her he still doesn't trust her. Before leaving, he asks if he managed to protect his brother in her past life. Shaking her head, she reveals that he was already completely alone when they met. No one dared ask how the boy died, but his loss left Cheyenne completely emotionless. Cheyenne realizes with horror that his brother might have died during this very tutorial. Ji-hyun tells him to stay calm, noting that less than a day has passed, but warns him they must now fight humans instead of monsters. Ka suddenly appears, congratulating the survivors on entering the official Players' League. Little creatures start playing trumpets as colorful confetti fills the air, leaving survivors wondering if these are friendly. When the music stops, the lead creature smiles wickedly, ready to announce the first official round. To progress, survivors are forced into a lethal king's game, pitted against one another in brutal combat. The small demons fly around, shrieking that the players must divide into 3 distinct teams, each led by a king. If a king is slain, their entire team is instantly wiped out. The survivors on the 7th floor are designated as the Red Team, with Cheyenne appointed as their king. The admin smiles, declaring him the most qualified leader. The king alone can access the team's status window. Everyone holds their breath as the system randomly designates the rival kings of the opposing factions. So, the blue team is massive, while the black team can stay hidden. Trust me, you and I are about to watch a legendary battle. Ka gives them 10 minutes before the chaos begins, telling them to enjoy. Let's dive into a world where survival means changing fast. Jin realizes the system picks leaders perfectly. Cheyenne must grow stronger right now during this training round, because next, he is the one who has to choose who gets the legendary artifacts. Out of nowhere, heavy footsteps echo as people descend the stairs. Stepping forward, the mall manager, Don Gil Kim, claims he represents the blue team. He apologizes for the past chaos and reveals his group actually brought food for everyone. When a woman questions if the food is safe, a smiling man reassures her. But secretly, he is scanning the room, realizing the red team has a genius among them. Still, he figures their food court floor gives them the ultimate upper hand. He plans to exploit this to expose the king, but our main character steps up, demanding to know their real motive. Annoyed, the manager tells him to relax, claiming he only wants to share supplies. He acts like a saint, saying cooperation beats playing the terrorists' sick survival game. Seeing right through the act, our hero tells him to shut his mouth. He knows they are just scouting to assassinate the king at midnight. He delivers an ultimatum: hand over the blue king, or get lost. Feeling the cold barrel of a gun pressing into his stomach, the manager panics and dives back, sending his suited goons rushing forward. Kang hesitates to waste his precious bullets, but Jin swiftly disarms the entire squad. Renendo Dong warns them that pre-midnight violence is banned. Knowing he lost, the manager retreats, defeated. Recalling her swift moves, our main character admits her combat skills are seriously impressive. He decides their next move is relocating their base to the first floor, escaping the blue team while gathering their scattered allies. Now, watch closely here. He knows those suited men are highly trained professionals. Keeping distance is vital, but having an insider spy on them, that would be an incredible advantage. Our main character hands this dangerous mission to the girl in the cap, instructing her to dig up every piece of intel she can find. Back at the blue base, the goons demand an immediate strike. But the manager brutally hits his own ally, declaring that since he holds the king's fate, he is the one calling the shots. He commands them to clean house. Overhearing this grim declaration, the Sword Star realizes this entire round is about to turn into an absolute bloodbath. Remembering her mission to assassinate the rival king, she vows to succeed, whatever it takes. Meanwhile, the red team manages to scavenge some questionable-looking goblin jerky. Guan volunteers as the brave guinea pig to take the first bite. Everyone hopes for a miracle, but he just shrugs, calling it edible enough to survive. Day 2 arrives, and Cheyenne is now leading a group of 39 survivors. They finally reach the first floor, only to find a hallway littered with corpses. Our hero realizes goblins did not do this. The system ruthlessly executed anyone who tried to escape their designated floor early. As they clear the area, the girl gently promises one of the deceased a proper burial. Surviving on toilet water, their next move is reinforcing their barricades. After hours of grueling labor, our boy finally tells his exhausted allies to take a breather. When asked why he is not resting, he claims he is fine, though his mind is racing. Staring at their meager arsenal, he knows he must desperately boost their firepower to match their rivals. Suddenly, hushed voices draw his attention. It is Lee Julian and her brother Lee Sebian. Our main character remembers Jin warned him to keep a close eye on this pair. The excited girl admires her newly crafted spear. Seeing her status window, Kang realizes spears offer a huge tactical advantage. He approaches, asking if she can forge more of them. She nods enthusiastically, mentioning she gathered a massive pile of daggers back on the 7th floor. Exhausted from work, our hero falls asleep and relives his darkest night the moment he decided he wanted to end it all. Suddenly, June appears, questioning him. He runs forward, hugging his little brother while weeping apologies. He wakes up screaming his brother's name, terrified the boy is home alone. Sebian asks if he had a nightmare, mentioning he already put everyone to work. But our main character snaps that it is still not enough. Let's pause for a second. Cheyenne just realized he slept for an entire day. He thinks he completely ruined everything, but Sebian insists their rough progress is actually paying off. Joy hands him coffee, reminding him he is not alone. These adults will do anything to return home. Suddenly, Ka teleports in, startling the entire group out of their wits. Grinning, the administrator mocks their cozy bonding. Since things are getting boring, she announces a special game to force some bloody progress. If any team fails within 4 hours, they face a devastating penalty. The challenge? Capture the flag. Each team has a flag hidden across 3 separate floors. The blue team's flag is on the 3rd floor, black is on the 6th, and the red flag is on the 9th. To survive in advance, they just need to retrieve their own. When a survivor asks about the penalty, his head, along with 3 others, instantly explodes. The admin coldly warns them that sitting around waiting for the king's game to end is no longer an option. With everyone terrified into silence, she gives them 4 hours to learn the true meaning of survival. Amidst the chaos, Cheyenne commands his team to hunt down the flag like any other monster. One man whines, but our hero tells him he is free to stay behind and die. When another asks what happens if they cross paths with a hostile black team, the tension spikes. But our hero reveals they are not targeting the red flag. Meanwhile, on the seventh floor, Guan's squad gathers all the jerky they can carry. Suddenly, an eerie noise alerts him. Investigating, he spots the blue team approaching. Finding nothing of interest, the suited men prepare to head down the stairs. Boasting about their superior numbers, the blue team retreats down the emergency steps with their loot. Down on the third floor, they prepare to claim their blue flag. The catch? A horrific beast is guarding the flag. Power tripping hard, the manager orders two young men to grab it. On the floor, one boy realizes this is likely his death sentence. Sadly, his nightmare becomes reality as the monster instantly devours him. The suited cowards just watch in silence until thick white smoke suddenly blankets the entire room. The leader realizes someone deployed fire extinguishers. Suddenly, an unseen force shreds a man's arm, sending the entire squad into a blind, screaming panic as they get torn apart. Screaming, the manager demands to know who is attacking, ordering his men to target the archers. But before they can move, a volley of deadly spears rains down upon them. As the red team's smoke squad blinds them, the blue leader wonders if they were set up from the start. Screaming in terror, he commands his men to fall back immediately. Amidst the chaos, Kang declares it is time to flank them. Rewinding 30 minutes, we see him planning this exact ambush, knowing their flags were close, making a clash inevitable. Our boy tells them this is their absolute only shot to crush the power gap between the teams. A three-man team will blind the enemy with smoke, allowing the vanguard to strike with spears and crossbows. Ending his speech, he warns that hesitation means certain death in this arena. Back in the present, he orders his crew to strike. Trust me, you and I do not want to miss this legendary clash. All right, you and I are about to witness some serious chaos. This assistant manager is complaining about his useless crew when the blue flag suddenly appears. But right as he reaches for it, Shan ambushes him in a rage. Meanwhile, on the ninth floor, Guan expects people to target their red flag. Over on the blue side, Kim Jong-pal gets ready to land a brutal punch on the attacking monster holding the item. He loves the impact of that hit. But looking at the massive horde ahead, the axe soldier realizes they cannot break through and suggests going back to warn Shine. Dong arrives on the third floor only to find his men completely wiped out. The blue team has dropped from 89 members to 53. Furious, he wonders why there is not a single red team member in sight. How could his men be so dumb they cannot tell friend from foe? Realizing the enemy never wanted their flag anyway, he snaps at a survivor to grab the item, swearing vengeance once they reach the main floor. Kim Jong celebrates as they secure their flag once again, but his relief is cut short when Jin blocks their path ahead. The brute immediately recognizes her as the red team's lethal sword woman. He barks orders to disarm the girl and tie her up immediately. Without a word, she tosses oil and a lighter directly at them. As a massive fire erupts, she starts slicing through the enemies. Even when the men try to charge back, they get absolutely destroyed. Seeing she is not some fragile target, the surviving men realize their only hope is to execute a coordinated joint attack together. The brute cannot believe his plan failed against one tiny girl, but now it is his turn to face her blade. Meanwhile, on the 8th floor, a guy asks the manager if their flag guards are reliable. He says they are, but a sudden notification reveals the red team has reclaimed their flag. The sprinklers go off, but they are absolutely useless against this massive sea of fire. Now here is where it gets interesting, pay close attention. All teams have recovered their flags, which absolutely infuriates the blue team's leader. He screams at his men to shut up and move to the first floor. Elsewhere, Cheyenne's squad celebrates their victory, but our main character is still completely lost on how they actually pulled this off. He wonders if Jen was the one who grabbed it, but remembers the king's game is active. Opening his map, he spots blue team members closing in and screams at his allies to grab weapons and run. Watching the chaos unfold, Ko smiles. He knows some people just need a little push to get moving, and any moment now, a king might fall. Over at the red team's base, the blue leader admits he knew they were up to something. The others look around, uneasy about how eerily empty the place is. Suddenly, the manager strikes one of his own allies and demands they stop crying and start destroying the base. An angry young man questions how he can keep bossing them around after killing a friend. The guy with glasses steps up, asking if he wants to die next. He explains the enemies only left their flag alone because they were outnumbered. They cannot waste time. They need to wreck this place and hunt the king. They need to destroy the base now and kill the king later. The angry young man goes along with the plan, but silently swears he will personally murder Dawn once they get out of here. Everyone starts smashing the base, but they quickly realize everything is tied down too tightly to break. Suddenly, A spear thrusts out of nowhere and impales a blue team member's hand. The red team was just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They fight desperately to keep their barricades standing as the manager orders his hesitating men to charge forward, even if they get skewered. Our main character steps up, knocking down an enemy climber before firing an arrow. He yells for his team to get their weapons ready, but an opponent suddenly grabs him from behind. The brute slams him onto the ground, preparing to finish him off. Cheyenne gasps that he is not the king, but the enemy does not care at all. But think about it, if their defense collapses, our protagonist has zero options left. Just as a red team ally gets taken down trying to help, the enemies cheer as the barricade is finally breached, unleashing a brutal massacre. A panicked girl cries over her dead friend, instantly drawing the attention of the blue team. Thankfully, Guan rushes in to save her just in time. The Lee brothers fight like demons to survive. Amidst the bloody chaos, the blue leader looks for Kang, sensing that killing him will completely break the red team. He screams, demanding to know where the guy with the gun is. Silence fills the room until our boy suddenly appears, taking out the enemy who pinned him down earlier. Pointing his gun, he boldly declares he is right here. The sudden gunshot shocks everyone, especially the manager, who orders his men to capture the kid immediately since he is the injured king. Our boy pleads with them, insisting he is not the king. But the guy with glasses refuses to believe him, telling his squad that everyone is grouping around the kid to protect him. With enemies rushing in, the main character realizes his gun will not be enough to stop them all. He needs to find a way to eliminate Dong once and for all. He fires his gun, but the sheer distance and surrounding enemies throw off his aim. Suddenly, another blue team member leaps forward to capture him. Cheyenne stops the attacker with a clean shot, but takes a nasty knife to his own leg. Ignoring the pain, he tries to target the leader again, but is violently tackled to the ground. Just in time, the former soldier intervenes to stop the beatdown. As he wonders why they must kill each other, the blue team suddenly erupts in cheers, claiming the Red King has fallen. Our boy crawls desperately through the dirt to reach his fallen gun, but someone else grabs it first. It is Guan, who hands the weapon back and tells him to keep fighting. Remembering she is an ex-soldier, he stands up and asks for her help. He tells her that taking out the manager is their only hope. Armed with a revolver, she agrees to try. Suddenly, an enemy grabs Kang from behind and screams. The attacker yells for Lena to shoot. Our boy delivers a brutal headbutt, and both of them crash heavily to the ground. He looks at his ally, begging her to focus entirely on the leader. She nods, promising she will help. Crying, the blue team attacker begs him to let him live so he can survive, but our boy screams that they are all in this together. Desperate, the young man pulls the knife out of his own leg and lunges, trying to stab his opponent. The former soldier pulls the trigger, but her shot misses the guy with glasses. Dawn panics as he realizes he is the target, but she fires again. Everyone freezes as they see the blue team's leader finally get hit. As he collapses, his men stare in utter disbelief. Jin quickly turns to check on Kang, but the manager weakly reveals he is still breathing. Looking ahead, the manager smirked because he knew they had already won the match. He orders his men to finish off the blonde kid, swearing he will survive even if he takes more bullets. His celebration ends when Jin arrives, demanding to know where the real Blue King is. Sometime later, Kang wonders where they are taking him. He soon realizes they are on the 11th floor, the blue team's old base. Spotting the Lee brothers nearby, he asks what happened. Instead of answering, the young woman asks if he is hungry since he was knocked out for nearly 10 hours. She explains that Jin appeared and destroyed the first floor, proving to everyone that the manager was never the blue team's king. And that is where we leave things, with the blue king finally dead. What a wild ride. You and I definitely need to see what happens in the next chapter. Alright, you and I are jumping right back in as they find a locked room holding the true king, a poor old man left there to starve to death. Our main character realizes that if the manager actually was the king, he would have known exactly where their entire group was hiding this whole time. Now with only one mysterious team left, enemies could easily be hiding right among his allies. When asked about the sword-wielding girl and the former soldier, Lee explains that both of them left the area earlier to scout around. Down on the first floor, Guan asks Jin if she has any respect for the deceased. Just then, the manager's thugs show up and begin burning the bodies. After a brief pause, the young man asks if those victims deserve better, but she shuts him down, saying he talks way too much for a guy with strawberry juice on his hands. He wonders if continuing this brutal game will turn him cold like her. Meanwhile, inside the theater, Cheyenne worries that if a black team member is among them, they might have to eliminate everyone one by one. With no time left to waste, he decides it is time for a quick test. He recalls when the flags were stolen, remembering that only Joey and Jian were missing from the first floor back then. Suddenly, Sebian mentions that while our protagonist was passed out, the former soldier kept demanding the gun. Our boy wonders if that demand was meant to target Guan. Without giving a straight answer, the man says that is his final word. Elsewhere, a dark-haired guy is relieved to find food, while the Lee brothers argue about how Kang has grown incredibly suspicious of absolutely everyone. Jin catches a strange noise, but quickly warns the former soldier that they should head back indoors. Back inside, the main character notices the pair returning. He immediately decides to step out and speak with the young woman. She warns that Jiang is likely the Black Team King since he wanted the gun and had plenty of time to sneak around. But our boy points out she also showed up at the very last second. The former soldier cuts in, claiming he was searching for Cheyenne, and offers him a cigarette. As everyone moves back into the theater, Jin worries about leaving our protagonist all alone with Guan. Kang rejects the cigarette offer once again. Lighting it up, the man admits he only started smoking to keep himself under control. He stole a pack from a dying kid. It felt totally normal to him. Now, pay attention here. Grabbing his weapon, our boy demands to know his real point. Tossing the cigarette, he snaps and confesses he is the Black Team King. Even with his hands pinned, our boy manages to pull the trigger. But he is instantly grabbed as a hostage, putting everyone on high alert. Screaming, Gang warns everyone to stay back if they want the kid to live. He reveals his goal was simply to survive 6 days, and in just 10 minutes, victory will be his. Shane asks why he is throwing his life away when he could have easily walked out alive. The man agrees, recalling his soldier days when he survived extreme hell because he believed in a noble mission. But once this twisted game began, Cass claimed a third team was necessary to raise the stakes, right before vanishing into thin air. Trapped in his personal hell, he originally planned to die. But when the blue flag was retrieved, something clicked, and like a man possessed, he reclaimed his own flag. For the very first time, he desperately wanted to live. Yet, surviving while others died haunted him, even though he tried his best to save as many people as possible. It seemed our protagonist was born for this nightmare. Realizing he had nobody left to trust, the soldier gave up. Hearing the chaos, Javi slowly reaches for her blade. Saying his final goodbyes, the Black King shoots himself to escape this hell. Covered in strawberry juice, our protagonist realizes that in the end, Guan was the real winner here. Breaking the stunned silence, the administrator appears. Admitting she thought the red team was finished, she congratulates the survivors of round 1 and presents them with a massive victory feast. She tells them to dig in, and everyone immediately starts eating. Without touching a single bite, Kang asks to leave. The administrator asks why he is in such a rush, explaining they must prepare for a meeting before discovering what happened to the world outside. She warns that round 2 brings terrifying monsters. Now, you and I need to watch closely here. A flash blinds them, and those who tried sneaking food out suddenly begin mutating and exploding. Opening his eyes, he realizes he is no longer in the building. We find out that out of 8 billion people, only 2 billion survived the first game. Now round 2 brings an endless freezing winter. The administrator points out that everything changes instantly the very moment basic human comfort is completely stripped away. She announces they must survive alongside dangerous creatures, making endurance in this frozen city their primary objective. She explains that powerful artifacts are activating, granting randomly ranked gifts to the chosen few. While most players will receive theirs next week, Shane has to wait a bit longer to awaken his unique item. As she vanishes, a massive explosion erupts, triggered by a terrifying creature resembling a giant whale. After walking for a while, Julian bids them farewell to search for her brother. With everyone splitting up, their temporary alliance ends, and Jin warns him that the open streets are incredibly dangerous. Once they find Junho, they must secure shelter immediately, especially since ruthless guilds now control these frozen streets. Suddenly, a strange green beast lunges at Kang, but Jin quickly cuts it down. She explains these monsters attack when approached and are drawn to shiny things like zippers, meaning he must stay fully alert despite his worry. Our protagonist can only think of his little brother and urges her to move faster. Soon, they spot a passive creature that rarely attacks first. Pushing past the chaos outside, our boy decides to enter his old apartment building completely alone. Sweating cold, he dreads to think of what his little brother went through. Sliding the key into the lock, he is shocked to find the door already open. Inside, he finds his abusive aunt and cousin waiting for him. Furious, our boy slams the door shut and demands to know where Junho is. When confronted, the woman nervously offers to make food, revealing that the child stayed with them until he set off to find his older brother 3 days ago. Losing his temper, he asks why she did not stop him. His aunt claims she tried, but his cousin sneers, saying extra kids are useless when food is scarce. We learn this greedy woman only took them in for their dead parents' insurance money. Furious, Kang snaps that the bare minimum was keeping a defenseless child safe inside. Remembering Guan's chilling words about surviving hell, our boy realizes he is only alive because he was raised in it. If becoming ruthless is the only way to survive, he will gladly walk that dark path, even if he must become a monster, and that is where we leave it. He agrees to do whatever she demands to survive, but only if she helps him rescue his little brother. All right, let's jump right into this search. Our Sword Star agrees to help him, but as they scan the city, she notices active barriers trapping the players, meaning young Juno has to be nearby. Remembering how the local guilds operate, our hero figures his brother would seek out shelter if he survived. So, their first move is checking district departments and police stations. They head toward the Manhwa police station searching for clues. Suddenly, a pack of deadly Nepenthes bursts from the snow, but Jin slices them down in the blink of an eye. Stian notices the surrounding streets are clean and clear, a sure sign that survivors are close by. She warns him to stay alert since they have no idea which guild claims this territory. Just ahead, a group confronts them, led by Xiang Junli, a surgeon from the local police precinct. The surgeon has a plan, so he manages to escort our armed duo straight past the guards and deep into the fortified police station. Inside, they find 3 entire floors packed with wounded survivors. Resources are running critically low, but the real nightmare is that dozens of new refugees arrive every single day. They have been sending scavengers out for supplies, but the local monsters are slaughtering them. The surgeon leads them to their room, handing over passes for food and basic facilities. He warns them they can only use them once a day, since the plumbing is completely busted and water is scarce. Accepting the harsh rules, they immediately set off to search for Chuno. They quickly realize this entire station is a massive powder keg, where raw violence and utter chaos rule any corner the police cannot reach. After hours of searching with absolutely zero luck, Kang tries to stay positive while exhausted officers grumble past them. Jin returns with food but no leads. When she asks if they are leaving tomorrow, he declines. He wants to stay and complete the active sub-quest, knowing that rebuilding the station will yield massive achievement points. She points out that only legendary monarchs receive those quests, which usually trigger in the absolute final stages of the game. Though it is strange, he knows he will need those points down the line. He is determined to grind for them, even if he is not a monarch yet. And pay attention here, he decides staying put is their best bet for tracking down Juno. After all, it is only a matter of time before they run into this area's mysterious monarch. By day 2, Xiangja notices the blizzard worsening, demanding they find food fast. An officer mentions their scouting team has assembled outside, but they are desperately short on manpower. Out of nowhere, the duo steps up to volunteer. This flashes us back to the night before, when Sam was intensely training her ally. After easily beating him down, she explains she wanted to whip him into shape before their powerful artifact activates. He is confused about training past midnight, but he explains they must volunteer for the food run tomorrow. By proving their combat worth, they can earn a direct audience with the monarch. First, he has to survive the streets. Loving his fiery spirit, she smiles and they jump right back into their training session. Back in the present, a volunteer wonders if the snow will ever stop. Suddenly, vicious snakes strike from the drifts, but Jin quickly shreds them to secure the area. Our hero advises the survivors to strip noisy zippers from their clothes to avoid attracting monsters. The surgeon realizes this powerful duo means they can finally search deeper for food. He announces they are targeting the main street of Anyang, loaded with food and warm gear. Unfortunately, rival guilds have been fighting like wild dogs over that exact territory. The chaos attracted monsters, turning the road into a death trap. Yet, the group slips in, raiding every shop for survival supplies, even expired meal kits. Grinning, Lee tells Kang he expected great things, but this clean run feels like actual magic. Kang is just happy to help, knowing the police have been living through pure hell. Thanks to their efforts, the base's food supply gets a major upgrade. This small victory completely lifts everyone's spirits, inspiring fresh volunteers to join the cause. Best of all, since our powerhouse duo signed up, casualties have dropped to 0. On their next run, the surgeon suggests hitting one last spot. They head to a nearby restaurant, but despite looking untouched, the floor is littered with mangled bodies. Now, I know what you're thinking, fresh meat. But our main character spots shredded bodies and realizes whatever killed them had rows of razor-sharp teeth. Jin recognizes the bite marks, but before she can warn the cheering crowd, a massive beast phases out from the wall. Panic erupts, but the sword girl commands everyone to freeze. As the beast turns invisible, she warns that moving means death. In fact, they might already be standing right on the monster's giant camouflaged tongue. As panic rises, Jay explains it is a crocodile turtle, a beast that lies perfectly still with its jaws wide open, waiting for prey. Its camouflaging skin is so advanced it can blend seamlessly with the walls or ceiling, masking its massive size entirely. These beasts can patiently wait centuries for a single meal, meaning the survivors are currently standing in a deadly minefield. Feeling guilty for leading them to this place, Haeong-jun steps up to act as bait. Kang rejects the suicide plan. Looking at the piled bodies, he warns that they are facing multiple monsters, not just one. Stripping his jacket, he insists nobody has to die. They just need to tie heavy objects to long fabric ropes, acting like fishing rods to safely guide them to the exit. But this rescue operation drags on. It takes them 1 full hour just to group everyone together safely. 3 hours pass, and they have only moved 10 agonizing steps. Freezing air rushes through a broken window, and suddenly, a volunteer slips, instantly getting grabbed by a turtle. They still have 6 meters left, meaning hours of torture lie ahead. Worse yet, the freezing temperatures are plummeting, and they have absolutely zero bait left. Jin steps up, ready to slash her way out without her artifact. Seeing her draw her blade, he stops her with a sudden plan, pulling out the save zippers. She confirms the snow Nepenthes can reach the 4th floor. He tells her to break the window and toss the metal, while Cheyenne yells for everyone to hold position. Using his makeshift cord, he smashes the glass, praying this works. The green monsters immediately lunge, instantly exposing a hidden turtle right outside. With their path cleared, he screams for everyone to jump, trusting the deep snow below to cushion their 4th floor plunge. Seeing him about to get snatched by the green plants, Jin dives and catches him. Landing safely, the surgeon praises the young man for saving every single life. And that's where we leave it as mysterious watchers eye the group from above, wondering if their queen might want the boy. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Let us dive into this wild story where scouts report finding a decent guy traveling with the Manhwa police. Group leader Sueim Lee immediately decides this is big enough to report to the queen. The guild heads back to their base inside the Enyang City Hall, a place where they keep a bunch of helpless prisoners locked away. Inside, a creepy woman eagerly demands to see the female captives, muttering that she needs to find the perfect husband for her precious little bird, a young girl trapped inside a glass cage. This short-haired psychopath is Jisoo Park, the undisputed monarch ruling over the entire guild. The search group leader reports that they spotted Manhwa police snooping around Enyang's first tree, but before launching an ambush, he noticed 2 exceptionally skilled teenagers, a boy and a girl, leading the squad. Hearing that the boy is handsome, the queen smiles, deciding it is time for a cruel initiation. She demands that the young man execute all their capture officers and dump their bodies back at the precinct. The terrified prisoners instantly panic, with one weeping and begging for mercy. But Jisoo cold-heartedly tells him it is nothing personal. He simply sealed his fate by daring to speak her actual name. Despite his desperate pleas, the guard is instantly executed. Gripping Lee Sebian's face, the sadistic monarch remarks how beautiful it is to live in a world where sheer strength brings everyone to their knees. The kid demands to know what happened to his sister, but the queen casually replies that she was probably thrown into hard labor somewhere. She promises he can see her if he behaves. Crawling onto the bed, Jisoo beckons him over, and knowing death is the only alternative, he slowly obeys. Wrapping her arms around him, she orders Suan to deliver those severed heads. Now, pay attention here, as we cut back to the precinct where the guards are thrilled their scouts returned unharmed. An officer asks the sergeant what they brought back. Remembering how Cheon risked everything to save them, Shinong Jun asks if they want to meet the station chief right away. Climbing the stairs shortly after, our main character secretly marvels at how fast he managed to secure an audience with the top boss of the precinct. Reaching the office, they overhear a man stating that even with rival guilds lurking around Anyang, contacting headquarters will keep their forces safe from harm. This speaker is Junwoo Park, the chief, while Congressman Inho Gil aggressively asks if he will take blame for any failures, dismissing the complaints of local survivors. Keeping everyone on lockdown is their top strategy, especially since using his special authority might alert the head of the barracks. The sergeant interrupts their debate by knocking and stepping inside. Meanwhile, the stubborn congressman continues, arguing that putting civilians to work is totally unacceptable. Lee finally cuts in to introduce our main character, praising his crucial help on the scouting mission. Recognizing that these corrupt leaders desperately need a scapegoat for their failures, Kang steps up and volunteers to become their new civil administrator. The skeptical politician demands to know his age. Our guy confidently replies that he is 20, having dropped out of high school to work on tough construction sites. Inho scoffs, claiming a real administrator needs advanced skills in logistics and accounting. He patronizingly tells the kid to stick to manual labor where he belongs. The sergeant tries to defend him but gets shut down. Asked what he would actually do with power, Our main character ignores the question and demands to know why they are neglecting civilians while keeping the police safe inside. Ji-eun claims it is simply to maintain order, condescendingly telling the young man that he is far too naive to comprehend. Kang immediately sees through their lies. These cowards actually believe society will return to normal, and they are terrified of being blamed for any hard choices when it does. They think waiting for government orders is safe, but our hero warns them that food is rapidly running out everywhere. Saving their political reputation won't matter when every single citizen starves to death. You and I both know he must prove his worth, and he confidently promises to do just that. He offers to assume absolute responsibility so the police are completely off the hook. Though Lee tells him he is going too far, he demands authorization to do whatever it takes to save everyone. The leaders burst into laughter, instantly accepting his terms while mocking his bravery and agreeing that he is the perfect candidate for this job. The chief quickly signs the paperwork, officially making Kang an administrator. Our main character notes that once he unlocks his monarch powers, finding Juno will be a piece of cake. Inho requests that his first task be solving the freezing cold, which our hero accepts. Later, Ji-yeon notes that he can finally wield his artifact. Activating the device, he claims ownership of a special spatial transportation sphere. Floating purple energy orbs manifest, which Ji-yeon explains will move purely based on his willpower. To fully master and upgrade this power, he must train relentlessly. We learn that controlling any artifact demands two essential mental traits. First is raw imagination, and second is mental endurance, which limits how long you can maintain the link. This explains why even Ji-yeon struggles to use hers for long. Instantly channeling his past life experience, our main character masters the technique. Turning to business, his new secretary, Shugun Kim, enters the room delivering a highly specific list of skilled technicians that Kang had requested. Kang immediately orders Shugun to assemble all the technicians on the ground floor to construct a massive heating boiler. Downstairs, our boy begins calling out names. An older technician named Jong steps forward, confused about the sudden summons, but the secretary tells him to wait patiently for the administrator's brief. Jong silently rolls his eyes, assuming this teenager is just another power-tripping amateur. After assessing the group, our main character announces they are building a giant boiler immediately, dividing them into teams based on their exact skills. Jong speaks up, scoffing that they lack the electricity or gas. He argues that even if they had power, there are barely any radiators inside to heat the massive building. Kang counters that they only need to heat the living quarters. By installing the boiler above ground and tapping into neighboring pipes, they can bypass tearing through solid concrete entirely. The expert counters that they still need massive amounts of electricity to heat the water and pump it throughout the entire complex. Our hero answers that they have plenty of survivors to melt snow and manual labor to push water. Even if it takes hundreds of workers, it is better than freezing to death. The technician admits the plan is actually brilliant if they regulate the steam flow properly, but Kang knows he can only pull this off with their complete cooperation. The secretary tells him he has the authority to command them, not beg. Surprisingly, the workers had proposed this exact plan before, only for the chief to shut it down. Eager for warmth, the crew readily agrees to help him tackle this highly complex engineering project. Realizing a successful boiler is only their first step, Kang plans his next move while Kim praises his leadership. But trust me, things are about to get wild as he asks if they keep captives here. All right, you and I are about to dive into a wild survival story. To secure extra labor, Cheyenne and the secretary head deep down into the basement cells where desperate prisoners beg for freedom. Flashing his light around, Cheyenne searches for strong recruits until Mi-eun-jin Choi, the former heavy hitter of the Black Dragon Guild, tells him to get lost if he is not there to free them. Turns out, this guy is a total beast with 8 prior assault convictions. The main character steps right up to his cell and boldly asks if he still trusts his own fighting skills. Laughing like a madman, Choi grabs him through the bars and asks what he wants. Realizing this thug is actually insanely strong, Cheyenne offers him a deal to cooperate, and he gets out of jail. His plan is to recruit ruthless fighters who will not flinch when facing terrifying monsters. Stian then tells the nervous secretary that he will personally take full responsibility for watching over the inmates. Choi mocks him, saying power went straight to the kid's head and refuses to help. Unfazed, Cheyenne points out that Choi chose not to kill him, meaning he is still sane and has a reason to live. Walking away, Cheyenne gives him until tomorrow to make his choice. Once outside, Kim asks why he chose such a dangerous criminal over everyone else. The main character tells him not to worry since he has a backup plan, admitting he recruited the thug because they are going to need serious muscle very soon. By morning, Kang demands more scouts for the search. Walking through the freezing station, he remembers the frozen bodies outside and realizes that time is rapidly running out for them. With temperatures plummeting, everyone's survival chances drop by 1% daily. Handing a file to his secretary, Cheyenne orders him to list every single person capable of working, no matter their age or gender. Back in the chief's office, the deputy is furious, questioning why Cheyenne is acting so bold and taking total control over the prison inmates. But here is the part you and I need to watch closely. Cheyenne explains he is building a massive boiler and needs to block off certain sectors for safety. To make it work, he must relocate an entire floor of people. Smirking, Enro says since the kid is taking all the blame, he can use the police to clear the area. Leaving the room, Cheyenne is disgusted by these lazy leaders drinking away their lives. The next day, Kim brings the stats showing 410 people are ready for hard labor. Our main character turns to the head technician, John, asking if that is enough. John smiles, saying it is plenty, making the exhausted secretary think he can finally rest. But Cheyenne immediately crushes his hopes, telling him to track all 856 civilians by work class and dates to ensure proper payment. Before the poor guy can even complain, Cheyenne says he is counting on him. Gathering the crowd, Cheyenne announces the boiler project, telling everyone they do not need to go looking for rare building materials. A skeptical civilian yells out, asking why they should trust some kid when the police promise to handle it. As the crowd grumbles, Kang pulls out a stolen bottle of alcohol to make a point. He explains its freezing point is 0 degrees, meaning this bottle will turn to solid ice in just 2 weeks. And once that happens, they will all go to sleep and never wake up. Cheyenne admits he wants to survive for his younger brother and knows they all have someone they love too. His emotional speech strikes a chord, convincing the desperate crowd as technicians step up to organize the search teams. Watching him, Jin silently realizes the boy is starting to resemble his younger self. From that moment, scavenger squads comb the frozen ruins for pipes while construction teams lay down the foundation. A week passes, and John estimates they need 7 more days. Suddenly, a terrifying system alert pops up, warning that the extreme cold has risen to level 2. The broadcast warns that the temperature is now 4 degrees below zero, with a wind chill of -30. It advises everyone to stay warm and hug to share body heat. Shivering volunteers scream that they must stop and head back before they freeze to death. Suddenly, a child collapses in the snow, and others begin falling like dominoes. Okay, I know what you were thinking. Things can't get worse, right? Well, Kim delivers some devastating news. 37 people are dead and 272 are in critical condition. Realizing they will all die before the boiler is built, Cheyenne is forced to order the elderly and children to join the workforce. But instead of brutal labor, he has them boil hot water and hand out warm bottles to active workers. He also orders snow caves to be built with fires inside so outside teams can warm up hourly. We see Jin stepping up to lead this warming duty. Meanwhile, a desperate Cheyenne asks the head technician if there is any way to finish the boiler in just 3 days. The technician promises to try his best, hoping a simplified blueprint will make it possible. Just then, Choi arrives on the scene, grumbling about how some young kid is running the show. We flash back to a few days ago when Cheyenne visited Choi in his cell to negotiate. The ruthless gang leader agreed to help on one condition: he wants a single pack of cigarettes every day. They struck a deal, but one wrong move sends Choi straight back to his cell. 3 days later, the final pipes are connected to the reservoir. Cheyenne knows they have given absolutely everything. If this fails, their lives are over. Now, the moment of truth has arrived. Cheyenne orders them to throw in every single piece of firewood they salvaged. With trembling hands, John Key clicks his lighter. We learn that his wife froze to death 4 days ago, and just 2 days later, his beloved grandson passed away as well. Yesterday, his remaining son and daughter-in-law abandoned the station, leaving him behind to die alone in peace. But amid these tragic memories, a wave of real heat suddenly warms his hands. The boiler works and the crowd erupts into wild cheers. The corrupt leaders are thrilled with the heat, while Choi watches in disbelief, wondering if he actually has to start working hard now. With heating secured, Cheyenne declares their next massive hurdle is securing food, which demands a completely new strategy. He looks at the map and announces their next dangerous destination, Anyang Station. The scene cuts to Anyang, where a colossal, terrifying monster has left a trail of bloody corpses. Later, back at base, Inho praises the young man, calling him an absolute savior for warming the station. Cracking open a beer, Chief Park laughs about his bad luck of having the apocalypse hit during his term, but gladly agrees to leave all the heavy lifting in Cheyenne's hands. We return to our protagonist, explaining his plan to conquer Anyang Station. Since local food supplies are bone dry and sending scavenger teams is too risky, he proposes a mad strategy. His plan? Capture and breed the monsters like livestock. The survivors are horrified by the idea while Kim frantically pulls up the safety data. An angry survivor warns him that a legendary giant beast rules that station, making it a suicide mission. But Cheyenne just grins, saying a massive monster means a massive feast for hundreds of starving people. When asked how they will handle hostile human gangs on the way, the kid simply tells them to trust him. Outside, Chiang Jun warns that clearing snow-blocked roads will take forever, only to discover Cheyenne intends to travel across rooftops. A struggling survivor begs Choi for help, but the thug snaps that he is no one's babysitter. He curses his luck, realizing he only agreed to escape but somehow became a glorified pack mule. With betrayal brewing in the dark, you and I are left wondering if this fragile alliance is about to shatter, as Choi plots to steal all their supplies while they sleep. Get ready, because you and I are about to dive into a wild survival story. Our main character's original plan was simply to find his old gang leader and rebuild his crew, but when he spots a massive monster at the station, everything goes on hold. Panicked whispers fill the air as everyone realizes they must stay dead silent. Jin notes that with such terrible hearing, this beast has to be an ogre. Kang grins, realizing this monster is the ultimate weapon, not food. With hostile guilds lurking and a brutal siege round approaching, they need serious firepower, especially when they have absolutely no idea what kind of powerful artifact users are waiting out there in the dark. To pull this off, he realizes he needs to uncover every single secret about these ogres. Days of intense investigation follow, and our main character notices a strange pattern. The four beasts he is tracking always return to the station at night. There must be something highly valuable hidden down in the basement. He warns the sword master that he is heading down for a closer look. Choi immediately freaks out, shouting that it is a suicide mission and refusing to step foot inside that basement. Choi claims he has no desire to walk straight into a deadly death trap. When he asks if he was only dragged along to act as a pack mule, the young man brutally confirms it. Our protagonist knows this coward will run the moment things go south. He gives him one final chilling warning: stay in the guild, or disobey orders and face the consequences. Leaving the shouting bandit behind, the two press forward. At the entrance, Jin asks why they are bothering with Mayang Jun. The young man explains he is testing his loyalty because he needs followers who obey without question. He double-checks if she is absolutely sure these beasts sleep through the night. She confirms it, stating they only wake up when the morning sun hits. Without hesitating, they slip right into the monster lair. Before long, Jin freezes, hearing a low, echoing noise rising from the depths of the dark basement. Guiding their way with a single lantern, they head deeper. The protagonist spots heavy cracks along the ceiling, carved out by the massive beasts, and wonders why such giant creatures cram themselves into this tight space. Now look closely at the screen. The lantern light cuts through the pitch black, revealing a horrific pile of human corpses used for food. Stepping closer, the sheer number of skeletal remains grows, proving the monsters are incredibly near. Yet, the young girl assures him that even a direct attack wouldn't wake them from their deep slumber. Trusting her word, he climbs up onto one of the giant sleeping ogres. Looking down, he confirms there are multiple beasts huddled together, while Jin warns him to stay far away from their sensitive eye areas. Checking the time, he calculates that he only has until 3 in the morning to figure out how to tame these monsters. For the next few minutes, he tests the tough hide, discovering their insane regeneration and complete immunity to pain. Watching him work, the girl recalls that in her past life, nobody ever dreamed of taming ogres, making her wonder if her return has shattered the original timeline. Suddenly, a thunderous crash echoes, and the two immediately freeze in pure panic. Watching the sleeping giants closely, our protagonist begins to doubt if taming these unstable beasts is even worth the extreme risk. Suddenly, a loose ceiling bolt gives way, causing the boy to lose his footing and plunge downward. He hits the ground hard, gasping in shock, only to see Jahui fast as lightning, slicing off a massive fist heading straight for his face. In the chaos, the young girl takes a devastating direct hit, shattering her sword. Since her body is still that of a fragile human, her arm instantly breaks into several pieces. As she falls, he lets out a desperate scream, but quickly notices the monster is still asleep, merely shifting in its slumber. Realizing how incredibly fast it moved just to turn over, he decides they need to escape immediately. You and I both know how bad this is. His friend is now trapped dead center among the sleeping giants. Guilt-washed, he grabs Jin and begins the desperate climb back toward the surface, praying they can escape before sunrise. With no other choice, he drives his knife into the wall to scale the cavern. But his grip slips, sending them both crashing down. As daylight starts to break, he frantically wonders if they should hide among the pile of rotting corpses. But time has run out. A massive ogre slowly opens its eye. As it rises with a sinister grin, our protagonist silently apologizes to Chuno for failing him. Miraculously, Jahui suddenly wakes up, blocking the lethal attack. He calls out in disbelief, only to learn she possesses an incredible skill called Guardian Angel, which activates solely to protect his life. He wonders how she can fight while totally unconscious, and what it truly means to be her protected master. Pushing his confusion aside, he realizes he must gamble everything on this. He commands her to shield him, and obeying his voice, she grabs him and literally starts flying. Once outside, he screams for her to stop, urging a retreat to the station. Suddenly, a system warning appears. Her body has reached its absolute limit, forcing sleep mode to trigger for physical regeneration. The pair begins to plummet from the sky. Sometime later, the young man slowly opens his eyes, realizing he is lying in the station infirmary. A woman offers him some water, explaining that Choi brought both him and Jin inside. The coward had rushed to their rescue after witnessing a massive flash of light in the distance. He learns he has been out cold for an entire day, but thankfully, they will both make a full recovery. Recalling that Guardian Angel's skill, he wonders just what kind of ruthless ruler he must have been in his past life to command such absolute loyalty. Stepping outside, he is instantly surrounded by relieved civilians celebrating his recovery. They admitted they were terrified after watching him drop straight out of the sky like a rock. Flustered by this sudden attention, he awkwardly thanks them. Just then, Kim interrupts with an apology, stating that the boss needs to see something urgent immediately. Out in the open, a massive beast carries the remains of missing police officers impaled on its horns. Staring in shock, Hunu declares this a direct war on justice itself. With trembling hands, he holds a note sent by Ju, mockingly thanking the police force for all their hard work. Analyzing the situation, he notes that the rival group has clearly tamed a beast, proving they are highly organized and preparing to crush other guilds. Turning on his heel, he orders his secretary to summon the chief for an emergency meeting immediately. Furious, the leader demands an elite task force to arrest the trash of Donhak. Our boy steps in, warning him not to fall for such obvious enemy bait. Before he can explain, the chief snaps, telling him to shut up and obey orders. Yellen Park barks that he will never let those lawless thugs run free, even if the world has completely gone to hell. The protagonist sighs, realizing this leader is an absolute fool. Meanwhile, in another area, two survivors spot smoke rising from a chimney in pure excitement. Staring down from the high station roof, Kang notes that the enemy guild has too many artifact users, meaning a single mistake will get them all killed. Choi approaches, asking what his next move is. He admits that surviving alone in this wasteland is impossible, so he is officially accepting the deal. The protagonist reminds him that he needs absolute obedience, no questions asked. And that is where we leave things. The thug smiles, eager to prove his worth, and our main character is more than ready to hand him a crucial mission. Deep inside the rival Ogai Guild territory, Jizu admires her glowing leaf artifact, laughing that this incredible power finally grants her the absolute freedom to do whatever she wants. Let's dive right back into the action. This crazy woman threatens to kill anyone in her way, declaring that once Oji falls, she is targeting the Manhak station. Days pass, and the anxious citizens wonder what is taking so long. Suddenly, Chief Park steps up, shouting that he has an urgent announcement. He exposes the entire truth to the crowd, insisting they must strike back against the spineless scoundrels of the Donhakan kind. But with his officers completely overwhelmed, their defensive limits have been reached. His solution? Force the everyday civilians to step up and form a brand new civilian police force. A freezing old man collapses to the ground, and though his granddaughter rushes to help, a heartless guard blocks her. Nobody moves until the chief is done talking. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the self-proclaimed monarch demands everyone join him to show the true strength of the Korean people. Obviously, nobody is buying this speech. The chief grumbles to himself, wondering why no one is volunteering when he is the one offering them food and shelter. Asserting they have zero choice, Janlu issues a ruthless decree forcing every single person to support his plan. Anyone who dares to disobey, straight to prison. Amidst the growing chaos, Kang realizes the mad chief can't attack Donhak just yet. Suddenly, John approaches, demanding to know why the chief lost his mind so quickly, and asks if negotiating with the enemy isn't a better option than starting a devastating war. When John asks if he wants to take over as the new leader, our protagonist flatly refuses. He tells him it is safer to just trust the chief's crazy plans for now. By the next morning, exhausted citizens are shivering and complaining about training in the freezing cold. Throwing a massive fit, Chief Park yells that war is no joke, declaring that the civil force is joining the scout teams effective immediately. Lost in thought, Chiang Tran highly doubts this plan will work. He can only conclude that whatever was written in that mysterious letter must have completely broken the chief's sanity. He remembers Ju's name, realizing their fight means everyone is going to suffer. But watch closely here, because Cheyenne actually has a secret plan to build a bridge, allowing everyone to reach the other stations safely. Back in the office, Inho asks if declaring war isn't taking things way too far, arguing that the chief should have warned them before dragging helpless civilians into the crossfire. But the chief completely ignores the old man, his eyes locked on the attractive woman pouring drinks. Smirking, he claims he had to bring in some extra help and demands the young lady fill his glass up. The deputy suggests calling in a special forces unit to make the operation official. But Jianmu snaps back, asking if he still doesn't realize the world is ending. He explains he only let him play leader just in case things magically go back to normal, which is never going to happen, so using his ultimate power is their only option. Lighting up his cigarette, the stressed chief reflects on the bizarre conversation he had with Cheyenne. We learn that the clever kid revealed his true goal, which is finding a way to tame the monstrous ogres at the station and weaponize them for the upcoming war. Hearing that this taming process requires massive manpower, the chief promises to hand over as many workers as the boy needs. Back in the present, he mutters that seeing someone so young work this hard is incredibly impressive. Because of that, starting right now, the useless deputy is also going to have to prove his worth. Over in the medical bay, Zhao finally wakes up, furious that a stupid ogre managed to beat her. She questions what happened after escaping the monster's den with Kang, and once she tracks him down, she demands to know what this training is about. Our boy quietly explains he cooked up a new strategy, telling her to shut the door since they are going off script. Once their secret meeting wraps up, he heads out to inspect the bridge construction to see if he can help speed things along. A worried worker tells him that ever since the chief forced everyone into the civil police, their construction workforce, and that he will handle it. Now, I know what you're thinking. His real master plan? Overthrow this crazy chief and locate Juno before the full-scale war even breaks out. Jin gladly jumps on board and asks what the play is. Our hero explains they can't just take out Chief Park immediately, as the man still holds immense authority over the battle-hardened survivors from the first round. Instead, they must systematically destroy the public's faith in the chief and prove that no one is safe under his leadership. While doing that, our boy will build his own faction to unite the angry citizens, a task he leaves to Choi. Meanwhile, the legendary Sword Star will watch our protagonists back and assist with the dangerous ogre training. Once their faction grows large enough, they will launch the ultimate strike. But until that fateful moment, the chief must stay completely in the dark. Back in the present, Jevi is amazed by how the boy is always 10 steps ahead. Meanwhile, Kang is in the office, convincing Chief Jiang Wu that he needs a massive workforce. He uses the excuse that more workers will speed up both the bridge construction and the ogre taming process. Laughing hysterically, the chief calls the kid a flat-out genius and happily grants his request. Inho suddenly bursts in, cutting their meeting short. Watching him enter, our protagonist notes that he finally figured out what happened to the deputy. Walking past the grumpy old man, the deputy bitterly asks if the kid is going to treat him like he's completely invisible. Our boy politely greets him anyway, but the chief tells him not to bother with the old loser. Furious, Inho grumbles that he never expected to be disrespected so blatantly. He snaps at the girl to pour him a drink before demanding to know what this ridiculous rumor about training monsters is all about. Ignoring his question, the chief coldly tells him he should focus on proving he is actually useful. Standing up, the old man mutters that he understands, but vows he will never forget this ultimate humiliation. The chief scoffs to himself, wondering why his former ally still thinks he has any actual power. Deciding it's time to kick him out for good, he turns his creepy attention to Jason, asking if she feels lonely. She quickly says no, but the creep demands she stay behind and talk, which is clearly going to end badly. Meanwhile, back at the bridge, work has skyrocketed now that they have extra hands. A young worker excitedly estimates they will reach Anyang Station in just 4 days. We discover that Cheyenne plans to split the survivors into 2 teams once the bridge is complete. Since the corrupt police won't help train monsters, he will use the beast training as a cover to organize his coup. In secret, our protagonist reveals to Jin that these monstrous ogres respond only to sudden sounds and heavy vibrations. Recall that when they explored the lair, those beasts only woke up after a massive sound echoed through the cave. Suddenly, a panicked knock interrupts them. It is Zhang Xiel, frantically warning our boy that he needs to see something right away. Rushing to the scene, our boy finds the poor woman who was serving drinks in the chief's office. Brutally beaten by that monster, the traumatized technician still refuses to say who assaulted her. But our protagonist already knows there is only one sick bastard capable of doing this. Learning that Jason is not his only victim, our protagonist blames himself for hesitating too long. Turning to the group, he declares he needs everyone's absolute cooperation to execute his plan. A few tense days pass, and the crucial bridge is finally complete. Cut to Enyang Station, where two scouts are running for their absolute lives. An enraged ogre is breathing down their necks, and the terrified duo only stops once they cross a line marked by a bright red cloth. Looking back, they are shocked to see the massive beast has completely lost interest. They wonder how on earth Kang figured out such a crazy trick. It turns out our brilliant boy realized these monsters are insanely territorial, so he marked their safe boundaries with tape. Meanwhile, watching from a high building, Zhao is ready to terrify the approaching enemies. Preparing to strike, she reminds herself that she must push through the pain and regain her full strength immediately. If she gets injured again, her allies will be left completely defenseless. We learn that these brutal ogres will relentlessly hunt down anyone invading their space. Within their savage territory, strength is the absolute law. As Sen prepares to lay glass traps around the sleeping monster, you and I can both tell this crazy battle is just getting started. Alright, you and I are about to dive into this insane world where once the sun rises, these shiny shards and nerpentes will do the heavy lifting. Now our guy can finally test if his wild ogre sound theory actually works. The Sword Star totally agrees, but she insists on staying close to smash any monsters if things get ugly since she is the new alpha. Soon after, our guy realizes these terrifying creatures actually scare super easily. Meanwhile, Choi is now commanding a special 50-person strike force, and he tells his crew that it is officially time to get to work. Back at the precinct, Park is screaming about a terrible incident where a member of their group was assaulted right inside the walls of justice. Even worse, the culprit is none other than Deputy Inho Gil. The chief coldly announces the old man is being exiled, leaving him utterly confused since he did absolutely nothing, while the victim herself just stays completely silent. Stepping forward, the monarch claims he never wanted things to go this far. But since the deputy is useless now and kept acting like he ran the place, he had no other choice. With a twisted expression, Park hands the old man a golden Congress badge, claiming it will get him special treatment. Holding back tears, the deputy finally realizes he was just a puppet and vows to make this crooked cop pay. But as he trudges through the snow, he hears a strange sound and is suddenly ripped apart by Nerpenthus because of that damn necklace. Jan Wu wraps up the meeting, commanding everyone to get back to their posts. When two guys start whispering about the chaos, an officer immediately shuts them down. Just around the corner, our hero asks Choi if they can exploit this drama to split the police and the citizens. With a smirk, the criminal says he knows exactly how to subtly pit them against each other. He is going to stir the pot just enough without raising any suspicions. Sure enough, the next morning, a panicked officer bursts into the chief's office with an emergency. Getting dressed, the monarch grumbles that this news better be worth his time. The officer reveals that a guard from the night patrol was brutally attacked and left in a terrible state. Now watch closely right here, because down at the crime scene, a message on the wall proves Inho is completely innocent. Absolutely furious, the chief demands to know who dared to touch his officer. Nearby, two civilians whisper that whoever did it deserves a medal since everyone knows the deputy was set up. Overhearing this, the monarch grabs one of them by the collar, telling him to watch his mouth. He then orders both men to be locked up, interrogated, and exiled for inciting a rebellion against the police force. The kid screams that he did absolutely nothing wrong, but the chief coldly warns that any defiance like this will be treated as a direct challenge. Anyone who challenges his authority is free to pack up and leave. When our hero asks if Park might find out who did it, Choi tells him not to worry. Operating in the shadows is his specialty, so they just need to sit back and watch. Next, we see a captured ogre writhing in pain. But everything changes the second the beast hears a distinct metallic sound made by clanging two iron bars together. Recalling the noise from the station, our guy realizes he needs an instrument that creates powerful vibrations. Surprisingly, whenever the creature responds to this sound, it gets rewarded with its absolute favorite food. But right when the beast goes to take a bite, Jin whacks it, resetting the entire process. Hyped up, our protagonist notes that if this training succeeds, he's going to have a massive advantage. Out of nowhere, a system alert pops up announcing that the ogre's den dungeon has been cleared, unlocking the beast's territory and allowing our guy to expand his exploration range. Along with that, the quest to secure the precinct is officially complete, and a brand new mission immediately takes its place. Cut over to the monarch's office, where he is absolutely thrilled with our hero's rapid progress, especially now that the food shortage is fixed and those fearsome ogres are fully under control. Kang mentions he felt a weird tension in the air and asks if something is wrong. Park brings up the ambushes on the night patrol, explaining why he had to lock up and banish those civilians. But that minor punishment is clearly not going to cut it. Our main character casually tells him that now is definitely not the time to stress over public opinion. A few days later, a literal guillotine is set up, revealing how sick Jian Wu truly is. I know what you're thinking, and yes, even our protagonist is shocked, realizing this horrifying trap was the plan from the start. At least there's a silver lining: the citizens will completely lose faith in the police. Before this, our hero got a massive quest to overthrow the monarch and declare a new order. Now, everyone is pressuring him to act, saying talk is cheap. While inside the station, Kim struggles to figure out his boss's plan. Changjian firmly argues that as law enforcement, they must maintain absolute control during crises, claiming it is all to keep the hostages safe. He orders the rookie to clear his head and deliver the status report. Gang reluctantly agrees and steals himself, but as he nears the tyrant's office, he spots a terrified woman crawling on the floor, begging for help. The chief brutally grabs her by the hair, reminding her that no cop in this building is going to save her because his men only follow his orders. Utterly shocked, the rookie officer demands the chief let the woman go immediately or face arrest. Jian Wu does not even flinch as the young man lists off 3 severe crimes he is committing. The tyrant asks if the kid is really this stupid to challenge the absolute rule of the monarchy. Kim fires back, saying he will do his duty even if he gets exiled, demanding once again to let her go. Unfortunately for him, the monarch decides to show just how absolute his power really is. Activating a decree, he coldly reminds the young cop that defying him carries a death sentence. Suddenly, dark binds wrap around the rookie's body, crushing the life out of him with a single brutal strike. The onlookers are horrified, but nobody moves a muscle as the tyrant drags the woman back inside. Park casually orders his men to clean up the corpse and spin a lie that a civilian murdered the officer. That way, they can frame an innocent person and exile them. Cut to the outside, where another victim is begging for mercy. Of course, it is completely useless, and the crowd watches in absolute horror as the guillotine drops for the very first time. Smirking, the monarch declares that order requires action, otherwise rules are just empty words. From this moment on, anyone committing a serious crime will be executed on the spot. Panicked by this madness, John whispers to a woman that they must escape immediately, even if they have to flee to Don Hawk. Amidst the growing chaos, we see Cheyenne being pressured to make a move. When our main character calls out to Choi, she confirms she is fully prepared to follow his orders. Later that evening, the chief pours a drink, bragging that the people finally know who is boss. Pouring another, he asks our hero a bizarre question. Who was the very first man on Earth? Naturally, our guy answers Homo sapiens, but the chief disagrees, claiming the first true man was actually the first monkey who learned to lie, since deception is the ultimate tool for personal gain. Because of this, he believes this massive lie will kickstart a dark new era, where humans will happily murder each other just to get ahead. Hearing all this psycho talk, our protagonist calmly says he doesn't quite agree. Unbothered, Park chuckles and admits he likes the kid, like a nephew, especially after he agreed not to worry about public backlash. Our hero asks what happened to Kim, and the tyrant casually admits he executed the rookie for crossing the line. Disgusted, our protagonist doesn't even wait for a toast, downing his wine in one gulp. Then he smashes his glass on the table and asks the monarch if he plays chess. The chief says it has been years, but our hero sweeps the food off the table, calling chess the game of kings. Trust me, you and I are about to watch the ultimate match. Let's dive right into this crazy plan as Kang tries to keep the chief distracted for an hour. Elsewhere, the police are on night patrol complaining about working while everyone else is asleep. One cop feels like something is seriously off, but his partner laughs it off, saying they doubled their numbers and have absolutely nothing to worry about. Suddenly, a strange noise echoes, and they finally realize those sleeping civilians. Yeah, they are not actually asleep. Troy grabs one of the guys, telling him to stay quiet and everything will be fine. Meanwhile, the officers realize the second floor team went totally silent, so they head downstairs to catch whoever is behind these brutal attacks. But a civilian suddenly charges in, swinging wildly. Luckily, an officer steps in and shuts him down with a baton. With enemies everywhere, the cops form a shield wall. A young guy warns the thug that these officers are highly trained professionals, but the leader claims his experience is superior, telling everyone to follow his lead and remember those guys put innocence in the GA team. That quick speech fires up the crowd, and they decide to go all in. Fighting hard, a cop begs the civilians to stop, but Choice breaks through their shields, yelling that they started this. Suddenly, a flying knife hits him mid-sentence while he is trying to negotiate a peaceful surrender. With one brutal punch, the thug drops the officer, casually claiming it was just self-defense. Remembering his talk with Kang, he decides to show everyone who is boss, declaring that cops are now just regular civilians, and if they fight back, they die. Meanwhile, over in the office, Park boasts about his chess skills. Amid the noise, our boy sighs, humoring him. Delaying this game is getting exhausting, but since the end is near, he decides it is time to deliver the final checkmate. The man mutters that he thought he was going to win as his vision goes dark, face planting onto the board, snoring. Jin asks if they are clear, and he confirms, saying the next step is to tie up Jian Wu. Suddenly, the police burst into the office, screaming about a massive civilian riot, only to find Kang casually tying up their chief. Cutting straight to the chase, our main character gives them a choice: accept him as the new leader, or side with Park. After a tense silence, everyone surrenders. Now look at this. Watching from another world, Cass finds this incredibly entertaining, but Administrator G worries her superiors will complain since her own zone is way too quiet. Turning around, the administrator shrugs it off, knowing exactly how their boss operates. But the day after this intense coup, our main character realizes there are still two major things left to do. First, he has to clean house within the police force, locking up the old boss supporters who flat out refuse to cooperate. The second, much trickier task is deciding what to do with the old boss and taking over his spot. Meanwhile, angry mobs outside are screaming for his head on a guillotine. Shine steps up, calling for silence to remind everyone of the long road they have traveled. He warns that they need that same savage drive to survive this harsh new world. But with Jian Wu's horrific crimes exposed, a new leader must step up. Our main character confidently promises to build a new order, exile the old boss, and completely reform the guild. The crowd roars his name. Jin approaches, sporting a fresh new haircut, and Crow jokes that someone is already busy making style upgrades. Reminding him that the League is an all-out war between rival guilds, she warns that the true trial starts right now. Suddenly, Kel appears, mocking the speech and saying Cheyenne should just slaughter the old leader to take the crown. Our hero asks if she's just using the rules to trigger a massive bloodbath. Annoyed, the administrator yells that since he has made it this far, he has 6 months to win the leadership democratically, setting a crazy target of 90% approval. I know what you are thinking, how is he going to convince 90% of those angry people? Well, flashing back a few minutes, Ko complains about being near these weaklings. She claims she followed her orders and warns that the second round is going to be absolute chaos, noting our boy is trying too hard to avoid killing, which might be a waste. Smiling, the administrator realizes she must prove this kid actually has what it takes to be a true ruler. Fast-forwarding back to the present, Kang is officially the leader and already insanely popular. When he asks about his messages, she refuses to answer unless he explains why he let Park live. Shrugging, our hero admits slaughtering people is not his style, and the guy might still be useful. Elsewhere, Ju receives a tied-up Jian Wu alongside a mysterious letter. Smiling, she decides this kid is a man after her own heart, leaving Manhack alone for now until she can test if this new leader is worthy of her partnership. 6 months later, the rebuilt city is thriving, with commerce booming. Even the massive ogres are casually walking around, completely obeying human commands. Far away, Jin notes that while he is making solid progress, he is still not quite ready to slice a whole building in half. He begs her not to compare them, but she warns the next round starts soon. Nodding, our main character, now officially ranked D, gears up to continue training. We learn the station is now called Manga, and as soon as the boiler restarts, more survivors begin to arrive. This sudden population boom forces our main character to establish a brand new monetary system. Over time, the humble settlement transforms into a thriving city-state. Joniel takes charge of operations, while Troy commands a special task force that actually uses domesticated ogres for dangerous missions. We see Jin sparring with the Cam again, and despite training hard every single day, he is still not strong enough. She acknowledges his progress but warns him to stop wasting energy. To defeat higher-tier players and unify Enyang to find Chuno, he must adapt. Flashback to 6 months ago when he unlocked the leader's trading market. Realizing he can contact other leaders, he immediately asks about his little brother, while Cass suggests replacing all those old laws. After thinking it over, our boy declares that every guild member now has the right to free, peaceful lives, provided they defend their territory. He announces the days of violence are finished, shifting their entire focus to peaceful unity. The crowd cheers wildly for this new era, and the administrator is thrilled to witness it. As a special bonus, she casually drops the news that Chuno is actually alive. He furiously lunges forward, but she reminds him that attacking an admin equals instant death. When demanded why they are watching the kid, she reveals that our hero has drawn the eyes of the higher-ups, making surveillance completely necessary. If he can unify Enyang, she promises to reveal his brother's location. Reeling from the shock, our boy commands Jahu to tell him everything about the upcoming second round. She warns him that he needs to get significantly stronger, as this war is all about powerful artifact users. Right then, she promises to personally train him daily. And that's where we leave things with two other rank S players lurking in Korea, including a crazy guy trying to jump off skyscrapers while his administrator just laughs. Alright, you and I are diving back into one of the wildest survival manhwa out there. We start with John Liano, Predator artifact holder, just staring down a beast. Meanwhile, our other ranker, Miss Park, is waiting on Mount Tek in Gangwon province. Armed with her brainwashing artifact, she is a dangerous player. But let us head back to Donghak territory, where the exhausted slaves are finally getting a quick break to eat. Among them is Julian, trying to swipe some food for the kids while plotting to rescue her brother. Glancing to the side, she notices a small, helpless boy who seems to be just another slave. Without hesitating, she hands him her own rice cake, telling him he needs it way more. But when she asks how he got here, the kid simply tells her she is the lucky one. Suddenly, the kid begins to float in the air. He reveals he is sick of waiting for his brother and is breaking out. First, he is going to wipe out all the bad guys and invites her to come along. It turns out Juno is alive and well, operating as a high-ranked player with an unknown artifact. Meanwhile, a lone traveler is searching for a safe haven, knowing Donghak's ruthless queen is rapidly invading neighboring territories. She wonders how the neighboring group has managed to survive right next to such monsters. Driven by curiosity, the stranger heads toward Manhwa and quickly reaches their border control outpost. She is instantly blown away by how happy and high-spirited the locals are. Approaching the reception desk, she claims to be a nomad just looking for a place to rest for a few days. The border director, Yonaha, explains that she will have to pay for her stay. As the nomad watches Yonaha direct two subordinates to find specific records, she instantly realizes the director has a mental-type power. And she is absolutely right. The director uses a highly advanced intellect ability known as the Memory Palace. Turning back to our traveler, the director warns her that violence is strictly forbidden here, and the local currency is lighters. The red-haired nomad places a radio on the counter, claiming it is incredibly rare these days, and asks if batteries can be traded too. We find out her name is Hanji Choi. Yana accepts the deal and points her toward the nomad shelters at the end of the road. Now pay attention here, she is amazed by how peaceful this place is, wondering why nobody fears Donghak. But when she spots an actual ogre casually walking down the street, yeah, she is definitely glad she found this guild. Meanwhile, our main character realizes it has been 6 months since he put the boiler project on the market. Outside, Jin asks if he is seriously planning to take down Manhak's second guild all alone. The boy explains that their territory is way smaller than Manhwa. Plus, they probably have their own active players, meaning there must be a solid reason they have survived this long. Remembering her advice about fighting other humans, he decides to handle this solo, though he tells Jin to back him up if things go south. Over at the school, the enemy monarch orders his forces to prepare for action. He vows that even if he only has a group of kids and surviving teachers, he will not let Manhwa take over their trade route without a brutal fight. It turns out the man relies on a massive catapult weapon. He hopes to show off its power to Cheyenne, negotiate a sweet deal, and secure a high-ranking military position. But suddenly, the entire area begins to tremble. This massive shake is caused by our main character, who decided to ride in on an ogre. Shocked, the monarch orders his crew to aim the catapult and stand their ground. In an instant, the enemy leader is blasted to the ground. Ringing a bell, our boy commands the massive beast to smash their catapult. He then announces he does not want to kill them, only recruit them into his ranks. The survivors do not hesitate for a second, immediately surrendering and admitting they always wanted to join Manhwa anyway. Our protagonist then tells Troy to secure the perimeter and escort everyone to safety. Excited, the former bandit slaps Jin on the back, leaving her thinking about how he constantly overdoes things. Meanwhile, Kang approaches her, confessing his worry that they only have 2 artifact users on their side. She promises to figure something out, but reminds him that their time is running out. Meanwhile, near the dangerous Anyang River border, a group of 4 survivors attempts a highly risky crossing. A young man carrying his injured friend begs him to hang on just a bit longer. We learn that this river is their only source of clean water, acting as the border between Donghak and Manhak. Lately, though, more and more Manhak citizens are getting ambushed by enemy forces while trying to fetch water. Back in his room, Joey suggests launching a solo raid to eliminate the enemies, but our boy warns that a preemptive strike would trigger an all-out war. That is bad, since Donghak has 5 times their resources. You and I both know that if he wants to unite this region, a massive clash with Donghak is inevitable. So, he decides it is finally time to make a loud, undeniable statement. Ready to strike back against these provocations, our main character remembers the captured catapult and plans a meeting with the Third Guild's monarch. We cut to a small vassal state, where that monarch offers San his meager food. The monarch eagerly asks if there are any updates regarding their merger with Manian. But our main character coldly points out that any real alliance requires absolute mutual trust first. Since their guild is located so far from Manian, sending troops to defend them is incredibly difficult. Because of this, he proposes a clever win-win solution. They must declare war on each other. Terrified and trembling, the monarch begs the young man to reconsider, swearing his absolute loyalty. Smiling, our boy explains that he does not want a real war, just the loud rumors of one. By pretending to fight, they can safely transfer soldiers and catapults. Once the plan succeeds, they will control the Anyang River, allowing them to squeeze massive rewards out of Dong Hak. We jump to enemy territory, where a severely wounded Jizu is rushed into emergency care after taking a stray arrow to the shoulder. Ripping the arrow out of her own flesh, she mutters how she expected the war with Yu Wang to end quickly. Furious, she vows to slaughter everyone in that guild. Right then, news of the conflict between Manhak's rival factions reaches her. Meanwhile, over in the Bisant district, Kang realizes the rumors about this lawless no-man's land are completely true. Soon after, he and Jin arrive at the shopping center where the first conflict went down. Technically, this district is claimed by Dong Hak, but on the ground, it acts as a neutral buffer zone between the two rival factions. Because it operates independently, countless nomads flock here. The area has grown rapidly, mostly by turning a blind eye to gambling and other shady underground businesses. The entire place is run by a powerful woman known simply as Madam. She is not an official monarch, but everyone treats her like one. Smiling warmly, she welcomes the young leader of Manhak, saying she arrived as fast as possible. Wasting no time, our main character pitches a major deal. Deep down, he remembers how desperately he wanted to avoid playing politics, but now he has no choice but to dive in. Knowing that cigarettes serve as currency in most of these sectors, he had Jahui stockpile a massive stash, slapping 10 full cartons right in front of Madam. He calls it a small down payment. All he asks is that she keeps quiet about Manian's plans when the war breaks out and sets up a private meeting with Jizu. When she asks what his real angle is, our boy simply tells her she will see soon enough. Pocketing the smokes, the leader gladly accepts. After all, in a place like this, money talks and absolutely everything has a price. As she thinks about how the protagonist's artifacts are just as terrifying as the Queen of Dong Hak, making the upcoming war totally unpredictable. We cut to a police station where a woman updates him on their progress. Grabbing his gear, Kang declares that their territory is officially on high alert. He demands a complete report on all available military resources for a massive, full-scale clash against Dong Hak tomorrow. Staring at his massive stockpile, he smiles. The battle is set, the river is the target, and trust me, you and I are about to witness an absolute war when Dong Hak finally bites the bait. Stick around for next time. Let's watch this massive siege begin right now. Choi marvels at how deadly the weapons look up close, questioning if they are actually prepared to strike. Reassuring him, the former math teacher confirms his calculations are flawless. Gripping a bottle of oil and strange plants, he sighs with relief. Glad it was all just a false alarm. The bandit tells the kid to relax, reminding him it is only a trial run. Meanwhile, night falls over Dong Hak territory near the river, where an archer admits she has a terrible feeling about Man Gyeong's silence. Suddenly, something glittering in the dark catches the attention of the guards. A cluster of tiny, glowing lights is heading straight their way. Squinting, they realize these are burning Molotov cocktails. But before they can react, an explosion of fire quickly spreads. The panicked guards scream, wondering how the enemy launched those bottles so far. A figure emerges, shouting to ask if they are the bounty hunters. Another young man demands to know where Choi got the sheer nerve to show up alone. Ignoring him, the bandit strikes, dropping the kid instantly before declaring that those who start a fight are the ones who owe an apology. Others desperately scramble to douse the flames, only to get ambushed by Kang's elite special forces, who are dead set on wiping out every single hunter here. A day later, the mission wraps up with a perfect score. The main character discovers they suffered 0 casualties. He immediately orders the math teacher to draft a performance report on how their Molotov cocktails performed. Jin points out that this strike is barely any different from her original plan to just slaughter the hunters. Shaking his head, our boy explains that preemptive strikes look like declarations of war, whereas this was simple retaliation. Plus, with Dong Hak already battling Yeo Wang, their female leader will now be forced to split her defenses. So, with Madam's backing, Man Gyeong can leverage the river to force a negotiation, meaning it is only a matter of time before Ju makes contact. Out of nowhere, a scout rushes in screaming about an intruder at the front gates. It is the Queen of Donghak herself, claiming she kept things peaceful because of a prior gift, but things have changed. Now watch closely as she tells Cha Hyun he is stirring the pot too much, demanding he halt all operations regarding the Enyang River and the Third Guild. She bluntly admits she could crush Man Gyeong right now, but she will hold back because advancing past round 2 requires 2 surviving guilds in Enyang. Analyzing her words, our main character realizes this woman never received the unification quest. Munching on food, Jisoo notes she knows he wants a merger, but argues they were never truly enemies, meaning they should focus on taking down a dangerous player in Muang. To sway him, she slides a glowing gemstone across the table, explaining it is an otherworldly mineral completely foreign to Earth. She reveals the system designated the river as a resource hub, deliberately pushing the guilds into a brutal conflict. Monopolizing these rare resources is the key to winning. She offers her hand to seal the deal. Our clever protagonist realizes that despite her bold claims, her desire for peace proves she has zero evidence that his faction was behind the river assault. Still, to find Juno, he must maintain the upper hand in these talks. He boldly declares he had nothing to do with the incident, warning her that Donghak will face absolute ruin if war breaks out. Because he also needs to bargain with Yo Wang, he handled this whole situation entirely by himself. The leader of the Third Guild steps inside, and our main character remarks that the system never wanted peace anyway. When the leader surrenders, announcing the end of round 2, system messages declare that spring has arrived, prompting Jisoo to step outside. We learn that Javi warned the young man that surviving round 3 will force them to surpass their human limits. I know what you were thinking, and yeah, things get wild as he builds a massive outer wall using ogre labor, since terrifying monsters are about to wake up. When the queen's assistant tries to ambush him, Jin slices his arm off in one strike. Grinning, our boy informs Jisoo that the beasts are swarming the battleground where she and Yo Wang fought, meaning she had better stick close to him if she wants to survive. After their intense conversation, she departs through a barrage of jeers, but we learn our clever hero forced her to hand over Bizin just to secure a 1-month truce. Inside her carriage, the queen vows to make Kang pay, while he secretly acknowledges that his entire land will be in grave danger the second this treaty expires. Turning back, the young leader orders his allies to focus entirely on preparing for the coming war. Meanwhile, over at the Man Gyeong border, desperate civilians struggle to keep rampaging monsters from scaling the wall. Hyunji begs Yoon Ha to let her meet the master, but the kid flatly refuses. Suddenly, someone screams a warning to the director about an oncoming threat. A hideous beast grins, ready to feast on a snack, but gets instantly shut down by the nomad crashing the party with her giant scythe. Having saved the child, she demands to see the leader of this camp. The onlookers are stunned by her terrifying combat skills. Standing among them, Jin reveals this nomad was actually her superior in a past life, serving as the second in command under Kang and ranking as one of the absolute strongest players. Shocked, the sword master admits she never expected to find her here. Realizing she is a wandering nomad, our protagonist decides he will have to put his best persuasion skills to work to make her stay. But Jae-hee suggests recruitment might be remarkably easy since they possess exactly what she craves. With the battle over, Hyunji happily devours a bowl of noodles. Kang walks in and slides a cold can of Coca-Cola toward her, praising her legendary skills. Trembling uncontrollably, the elite player stares at the drink, wondering if she is hallucinating. We discover that since the apocalypse began, she spent nearly 2 years hunting for a single can of Coke. Setting the soda down, our hero officially invites her to join his guild. Practically lunging over the table to snatch the soda, she eagerly promises to do whatever he wants before taking a sip and cheering over her glorious prize. A bit later, our main character, Jin and Yoonha, follow the player along a path leading toward Donghak. Crushing the empty can, the red-haired nomad mentions that nomads always share the good stuff. She welcomes them to the heart of Donghak territory. Once they settle into a building, our boy instructs the director to gather intelligence, warning her to pull out immediately if things turn dangerous. Thrilled, the young girl promises to monitor and report every single enemy movement using her special radar ability. With only a month before war erupts, Choi starts training civilians in advanced combat while weapon production goes into overdrive. Before they know it, the 1-month non-aggression pact officially expires. Standing in the pouring rain, Jisoo reflects on everything she has sacrificed for her people, declaring she will no longer stand by and watch from the sidelines. Asserting that the strong should rule the weak, she rallies her troops to march forward, conquer everything, and show their enemies what real freedom means, prompting a thunderous roar of agreement. Meanwhile, in Manjeong, Cha Hyun asks his warriors to ask themselves why they are there and why they defend their home. He reminds them it is to secure a real future where they can live with dignity. As painful memories of their past suffering flash by, the young leader promises they will utterly crush Dong Hak and write an unforgettable tale of survival. Roaring in response, the army signals they are ready to fight to the death. Suddenly, a scout arrives with grim news. Enemy forces are marching on Bizan and Enyang Station, and they have lost contact with Yun Ha for 2 days. Fearing she is captured, he sends Jiahui and Heon-ji out. Let's see how this wild rescue mission unfolds next. Alright, you and I are diving into a world where cosmic entities watch from above, betting on a massive war. That is when Kay steps in, thrilled that they are enjoying the show. Tossing over the entry fee, one god asks who she is backing. Playing it humble, the Admiral admits she is putting her money on Jizu to win it all. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure praises her efforts. Resting on the lap of a masked young woman, Kay purrs that everything she does is for her. Still, the stranger is not convinced their target is going down easily. Dong Hak makes the first move against Manga, splitting his forces to strike both Enyang and Bizan stations. Instantly, we are thrown into an apartment complex where the brutal war is already raging in full swing. The main character's men open fire the second the enemy draws near. But the masked woman deflects the bullets, launching into the air, riding a bizarre beast. By the time they realize the danger, it is too late. Here's where things get interesting. Choi steps up, demanding to know if this girl is a player before eagerly diving straight into battle. They clash head-on, but the bandit seems completely outmatched. Even so, he manages to strike her flying mount, sending the beast crashing down to the dirty ground. Smelling blood, he dives in for a mid-air strike. But he only manages to slice her mask in two before getting violently shoved back. Grinning, he mocks her, saying she does not live up to the hype. Furious, Amy grabs her spear and goes on the offensive. She relentlessly pressures Choi, making him regret ever opening his mouth. His opponent is not even using special powers yet, but her raw physical strength is off the charts. A sharp blow slices his shoulder, sending panic through the ranks. Clutching his wound, he barks orders for everyone to fall back into the building and regroup with their main unit. I know what you were thinking. Did the trap work? Well, her master plan to lure the enemies inside the building completely falls apart. With the enemy retreating, a scout delivers the bad news of their defeat to our main character. Unfazed, the boss simply declares they must prepare for round 2. Analyzing the move, our main character realizes the enemy was just testing them, aiming to strike Enyang and Bizan at the same time. Jin volunteers to defend the area, but Cheyenne steps up to take the lead. Over at the Dong Hak Guild headquarters, Sophie notes that the enemy defenses felt far too weak, as if they were walking straight into his setup. The queen expected Kang to make things more entertaining. She scoffs, claiming they can set all the traps they want, because in the end, everything will blow up from the inside out anyway. Back at the complex, massive flames erupt as an enemy player unleashes a devastating attack. Completely paralyzed, Hayu stares down in absolute horror at the smiling villain standing amidst the blazing fire. That is where we leave things today. Hit that notification bell so you and I can witness the next wild chapter together.